Hello. Today, we're going to be talking about crowdsourcing and how you can use it to fund your art.
Crowdsourcing is a way to obtain money by getting a large number of people invested using the internet. Crowdsourcing is nothing new. In 1876, the Statue of Liberty was funded through crowdsourcing. Anyone who donated to the project got their own mini Statue of Liberty. To get more donors, they added a perk of having donors' name published in the newspaper.
Technology has completely changed the way that we crowdfund in the 21st century. The internet allows us to reach a much broader spectrum of supporters and donors to fund our art.
Websites like Kickstarter and Indiegogo are the largest online crowdfunding platforms right now, but there are many others, including locally known Community Funded, which is helping artists and creatives fund their projects right here in Fort Collins.
So which one is better for your project? Let's find out. Kickstarter curates its projects, which means it only accepts 60% of the campaigns to its website. This is unlike Indiegogo, where anyone can make a campaign, but then has to compete with all the thousands of other campaigns on the site, which could hurt its chance at getting funding. Kickstarter has no minimum or maximum value that you can ask for. As you'll see in some examples later, this means you could have anything from $8 or up to thousands or even $1 million for your project. Indiegogo, on the other hand, has at least a $500 minimum. Another big option to look at with these two sites is the idea of keeping it all or nothing. That means, on a website like Kickstarter, you have to raise your entire goal in order to keep any money. Platforms like Indiegogo, on the other hand, have the option to keep anything you raise or to keep only if you raise the goal. Kickstarter believes that it gives your donors more incentive if you say you can only keep it if you get it all. But it's up to you. The final main difference to consider is campaign length. On Kickstarter, you only have 60 days to raise your full amount of money, where on Indiegogo, you can have up to 120 days for your campaign to run.
With good promotion, 60 days can be plenty to reach your goal. In fact, 120 might be too many and your project could get lost.
Having a video is one way to encourage donors to give by telling a truly compelling story. Kickstarter requires that you have a video with your campaign, where Indiegogo, it just helps. Another thing that Kickstarter requires is the giving out of perks, or kickbacks. This means that you give donors a reward for donating to your cause.
Why should you crowdfund your project? Sometimes it's difficult to find one donor who can afford to fund your entire project.
Crowdfunding allows you to reach out to many people who want to donate any amount of money, and then they're emotionally and financially invested.
Emma's made some great points on why we should crowdfund, but now let's look at some examples of the good, the bad, and the just plain out weird. But most importantly, campaigns that show art can be successfully crowdfunded. Many of today's successful crowdfunding campaigns are helping people pay for their medical bills, like this one, which raised 8 times its asking amount on GoFundMe. Campaigns like this show us the importance of emotional investment because it encouraged over 12,000 donors to give to this cause. An article in Entrepreneur magazine said, the New York City Opera is known as the People's Opera, so they decided to ask the people to donate the extra money they needed to keep their season going in 2013. They needed $7 million to survive the month of the next performances, so they asked for most of that from private donors, but asked for $1 million in a 22-day Kickstarter campaign. Even with over 2,000 backers, the company only reached about a third of their goal. The company did a great job of making a compelling video. Where this campaign fell short was its reliance on being an affordable opera that didn't encourage people to necessarily give a higher amount of money. This was seen in the way they set up their kickbacks or rewards, which had multiple different options for rewards within each donation category. So you could give $500 and get possible 3 different rewards, instead of encouraging people to maybe get one of those rewards at a higher price. This campaign also shows us that the importance of promotion to reach that needed goal, because the New York City Opera filed for bankruptcy soon after this campaign failed. Even with its curation process, weird, quirky campaigns pop up on Kickstarter. This guy raised $1,000 to buy a Chipotle burrito and rate it for the world. But the good news for artists who want to fund projects is that there have been some campaigns that have been wildly successful. This campaign was done on community funded and shows that funding art can be done right here in our own backyard. For the Cheyenne Little Theater Players in Cheyenne, Wyoming, raised $90,000 to renovate their theater. And they did this with the help of only 21 supporters.
So now let's make a campaign. Go to the Indiegogo website and click Start Your Campaign, and it'll guide you through the process, but remember you can only ask for a minimum of $500. Select the type of campaign you're going to run, and make sure you sign in. You can sign in with Facebook if you prefer, over email, whatever's more convenient, but that'll be your account to access it. Then start with the basics. Have a catchy title, compelling and attention-grabbing title, and then add a nice tagline. For example, in our campaign to Eat Chips and Queso, we said help 4 hungry college students power their creative juices. Your information should be informative and captivating, and we recommend including a video. You should also think about the type of campaign that fits your needs best. We'll go into a few more details on that later, as we've already mentioned, but this is where it all comes down to it. So before you create your campaign, make sure you're well educated on all the options available. You should also enter your location properly so people know where you're at, especially if you're trying to eat chips and queso at a local cafe. It might help to know where the local is. Then you can, if you don't have a video, like we didn't, you can upload an image in place of a video, but videos are generally more compelling because people respond better to stories. Though a picture of 3 hungry college students begging for chips and queso will probably work all right. You also need information. Indiegogo will walk you through what you need and outline it for you, and then you can fill in your own information. Like what we need, what you get, impact, really make sure you're telling your story. And then, to incentivize people further, add perks. Your perks should be reasonable. Don't offer to make potato salad for thousands of people, but a photo is doable, especially when delivered via email. Don't have a million perks, and you can, if you are doing something that's a little harder to obtain, you can set the number available and limit that. But review your perks, make sure they're all good, all something people would actually want. Your perks should be good. And then it's time to get to the nitty-gritty. You gotta make your contact for your campaign, because they're giving you money. You need your legal first name and legal last name, all hyphens and suffixes included. And then you also need birth dates, stuff like that, contact information. And don't try to take this on alone. Indiegogo will allow you to make a campaign team. And you can invite other people via email, and you can even assign people specific roles. It says role is optional, but it helps keep things clear when people are all trying to work together, especially via remote. You also, with Indiegogo, have the flexible versus fixed funding. I do not believe you can go back and change that, so make sure your mind is set before you make it. And make sure you have the right target for the donation set. You can enable payments by PayPal, which is super nice, makes your money easier to get. And we recommend having a custom URL. So ours is chips and queso, just hyphenated. You can also even add Google Analytics if you so choose to see how your fundraising site is going. And you can add more videos, more images, especially if your campaign is progressing over time and you are doing flexible funding. We recommend adding stuff as you go along and keep people updated on your success. And Indiegogo has this thing called In Demand, where after you finish, you can actually keep going and ask for more money. It'll even send you reminders about what you haven't finished before you complete your campaign.
By now you might be wondering, but how does this apply to me? Let me tell you about a time I successfully crowdfunded to support my art.
Last year, right in Fort Collins, a group of CSU students put on a play called Doctor by Seth Klusmeyer using Indiegogo to crowdfund their project. Their goal was to raise $1,500, and they were able to raise over that 124% for a total of $1,855. As you can see, sites like Indiegogo give you your own analytics to see how your campaign is doing. This campaign had 1,120 hits, as well as 48 contributors. You can see here that most of their traffic came from email or a direct link to the website. The second most was from Facebook itself. This page shows where their money came from, what sources it was donated on, and how many fees were taken out so that they were able to figure out exactly how much money they had to work with.
joining us to learn about crowdfunding today. Cheers and happy funding!